Hi, it is time for my September TBR. I cannot believe it. I cannot believe that it's time for September TBR. I cannot believe it's time to go to a new school year. This is going to be my 26th year of teaching. That's a lot of teaching. I'm about to get a whole new class. I'm excited to get a whole new class, and also I'm gonna really miss my class from last year. I loved them so much. Don't tell them, but they are definitely among my pantheon of favorites. And I will get to see some of them. Some of them are moving on into our high school and they're going to stick around, and I'll get to see them grow up a little bit more. But, you know, life isn't all about teaching. It's also about reading. So let's talk about what I've picked to pick from in the month of September. I've got quite a few books here, and some of them are very long. My thinking about picking September books, I really was focusing on picking authors I know I love, picking plot-heavy stories, and picking things with a mystical, magical element. Not everything I picked has a mystical or magical element, but everything I picked, almost everything, but everything that I picked somehow fulfills one of those three categories or more. And I'm very excited about all of these possibilities. I don't think I will read them all. I'm just simply not reading as much as I was a year ago or 2 years ago. And I'm fine with that. You know, I always say here on this channel and in my real life with my students, like, your reading life is cyclical. Everything is cyclical. Things come, things go, they come back and they go. You know, interest wanes, interest increases, time wanes, time increases. And I'm just in a time where I'm just reading slower than I used to. And I think that's healthy, and I think that's good, and I'm embracing that. It doesn't mean that I don't desire to read all the things. And so I've cultivated a group of books that fit my current craving for magical, mystical elements, authors I know I love already, and really plot-heavy books. A lot of these, as a result, are kind of long. If you really want a plot-heavy book, it's going to be a little bit longer. So while I really, really, really hope I read every single book on this list, I'm not anticipating that I will read every book on this list. But I will be picking from this. I'm going to put them all on a shelf in my living room and just pull from these. It may be I'm going to be commuting again. I haven't been commuting anywhere all summer. So now every day I'm going to have a nice 35 to 45 minute walk home every day, which I prioritize. That is something that I do every day, rain or shine. It keeps me sane and I love it. But while I do that, sometimes I listen to music, sometimes I listen to a podcast. Almost all the time I listen to an audiobook. And, well, sometimes it's been a really long day and I want no noise. I listen to nothing. But usually I'm listening to an audiobook. And so that increases my reading for sure. And I always have a book that I read while my students do their silent reading in class every day. That's just 10 minutes a day. 2 times a day now, because I only have 2 sections of 8th grade this year. So that's 20 minutes a day of extra reading that I may not normally get in my not teaching life. And this year, I've looked at my schedule and I'm so excited. I'm so excited to actually have 10 hours a week, 10 hours a week for prep and grading and all the other things I do. I am in a leadership role at work. So I'm a teacher, I teach English, I teach writing. I'm an advisor, so I have an advisory group. And I'm the grade level lead, or the dean, might be another word that might be more familiar to you, or a homeroom teacher, which carries with it at this school quite a lot of responsibilities. Not as many as other schools I've been at. That's a big slice of cake. maybe not cake. It's a big bowl of rice. And yeah, it's a lot of work. And I actually have been given time to do that in my schedule this year. And I'm so excited about that because it means that maybe I can actually have a life. And also, I don't tell them, but I don't need 10 hours a week. After 26 years of teaching, like, I got time management down. Teaching 4 sections of writing does mean a lot of extra grading work, or a lot more time needed for grading, but I still don't need 10 hours a week. Do not tell them that, though. But what I can do in my extra time that doesn't get used is a little brain break, and I can go and I can walk around our beautiful campus and listen to an audiobook, or I can find a quiet corner and read a physical book during the day. And that's glorious. It's going to be glorious. Just to compare, if you're like 10 hours for prep, that feels excessive. Or if you're like 10 hours for prep, that feels like not enough. Last year, I taught 3 sections of English and 4 sections of writing, and was the grade level advisor, like grade level lead, the dean. I wasn't an advisor. I was on several committees, and I only had 2 planning grading periods a week. 2. That's an hour and 25 minutes a week to grade and plan. So this 10 hours a week is going to feel like swimming through a pool of soap suds. I don't know. It's going to be luxurious. It's going to be luxurious. And I'm very excited about it. So all of that to say, I probably will have more time to read. And September will be kind of a slow month. It looks like they heard our last year. September was not a slow month. It was insane. It looks like they heard our feedback and they've kind of slowed down the roll in of academic life. It looks like I get a lot of just like time to set up routines and structures and all of those fun things. And within that, I get to have 10 hours to plan and prep and set up a routine for reading time. I do know that I have the first period of the week and the last period of the week free. That is the biggest gift you can ever give a teacher. That was my saving grace for only having 2 periods of planning and prep last year, was that I had the first period of the week and the last period of the week free. So I could get as much done as I could on that last period of the week before I left and not have to bring too much home and set myself up with tasks and piles to address when I came in on the Monday, and have that first hour or first 45 minutes, 55 minutes of the day, my own, of the week, my own, to get myself ready for that week to have no breaks. And that was my saving grace. Now I have all this time and I have the first period and the last period free. It's going to be a good year. It's going to be a very good year. I'm excited about it. And maybe in that last period of the week this year, or maybe the first period of the week this year, I can just set it aside for personal development and read some fiction or nonfiction. I don't know why I said fiction, because all these books are fiction in September. That's why. I've been chatting for 10 minutes. I've lost all the people who clicked on this to see a TBR and don't know me, and that's okay. For those of you who stuck around and are still cheering with me for my 10 hours a week, here are the books. Most of these are backlist titles, but some of them are fairly new. Almost all of them have some magical mystery element to them, and I am excited about every single one of them. So let's get into this. I don't know where to put my coffee. Let's just get into this. I'm going to start with the 2 that are not mystical in any way. This is The Bookshop of Second Chances by Jackie Fraser. It is a Better World Books used library copy. I can't quite get those stickers off without peeling off any of the cover, so I'm just leaving them. This one is by an they're painting the outside of my building, so Lola's gonna bark a lot during this video. Let's try this again. This is The Bookshop of Second Chances by Jackie Fraser. Jackie Fraser is an author that I have read before. Last year I got to read an arc, something, I can't remember the title of it, something about beginnings. And it was about a woman who had lost her home and was squatting in an empty house that then gets moved into. And she and the person who moved in create an agreement where they can live there together until she can get back on her feet. And I loved that book so much. I loved it. I don't own it yet. I don't know why. I need to get myself a copy, but I did see this on Better World Books and felt like reading another book by this author. I think that she only has 2 books right now, but I loved that one so much, and I am really excited to have this one now. This, I think, is her debut novel. It is about, I don't know what. I bought it based on the author, and it's about a bookshop and second chances, like 2 things that I absolutely love. So let's find out what this is about. It says, Thea Mortram is having a bad month. She's been let go from her office job with no notice, and to make matters even worse, her husband of nearly 20 years has decided to leave her for one of her friends. Bewildered and completely lost, Thea doesn't know what to do. But when she learns that a distant great uncle in Scotland has passed away, leaving her his home and a hefty antique book collection, living the dream, she decides to leave Sussex for a few weeks, escaping to a small coastal town where no one knows her seems to be exactly what she needs. Almost instantly, Thea becomes enamored with the quaint cottage, comforted by its cozy rooms and lovely but neglected gardens. The locals in nearby Belle Weather are just as warm, quirky, and inviting. The only person she can't seem to win over is the bookshop owner, Mr. Edward Maltravers. I sense romance in the air. I am really looking forward to reading this. This is one of 2 not mystical magical books on my list for this month. The other not mystical magical book is actually a book by an author I have never read, but it is the first in a series that I have been eyeing for 2 years. A few years ago, I finished reading through a very long series of books called the Irish Country Doctor series. And I have been really craving another long series that I can dive into. So, gonna give this a try. This is historical fiction. It follows like generations of a particular family, and I think there are quite a few in this series. This is The Founding by Cynthia Harrod Eagles, book 1 in the Morland Dynasty series. I hope that I'm gonna love this. It has high praise on the back. That high praise is, it says that this is the yardstick by which all historical novels are measured, which I'm taking with a grain of salt because until 2 years ago, I had never heard of it, and I read a lot of historical fiction. So I don't know if it's true that it is the yardstick by which everything is measured, but I am really looking forward to diving into this and giving it a try. This is, like I said, a family dynasty, a family legacy sort of book, I was about to say, but also series. And it's going to follow different characters through different generations. And I am interested in it. This one, I think, is about, it takes place during the British Civil War. And it's about a young woman named Eleanor who is in love with Richard, the Duke of York, but is being forced by her family to marry a sheep farmer named Edward Morland. She does not want to marry him because obviously she's in love with someone else, but also in love with someone else who is way more status-oriented or higher up in status than a sheep farmer. But for whatever reason, her parents have arranged this marriage, and she has to follow through with it, and I don't know what happens from there, but it's historical fiction in a time period that I love. And I'm looking for a new series that I can dig my heels into. I thought last year that Poldark might be it. not it. Not it. So we're going to give that one a try. And now we get into books that have a magical, mystical element to them. And a lot of these are books by authors that I already know that I love. So we're just going to dive into these and kind of zoom through them as quickly as I can in the hope that Lola does not bark like a wild animal. First on the list is The Dovekeepers by Alice Hoffman. I love Alice Hoffman. I haven't read everything that she's written, but what I have read, every time, I absolutely get totally immersed in this world. And that is what I am looking for in September. I am looking for books in which I can become totally immersed. And this one is set during biblical times. Ever since I finished reading the Book of Longings, have been wanting more books set in that time period. I don't want Christian fiction. I don't want you to retell me a Bible story or base a story around a person from the Bible, although that is what the Book of Longings kind of does. But that's not what I'm looking for. I want that time period and I want that culture, but I don't want those stories. And so this, I think, fits the bill. This takes place in Masada. So let's read the back. It says, The Dovekeepers is Alice Hoffman's most ambitious and mesmerizing novel, a tour de force of research and imagination. Nearly 2,000 years ago, 900 Jews held out for months against armies of Romans on Masada, a mountain in the Judean desert. According to the ancient historian Josephus, 2 women and 5 children survived. Based on the tragic and iconic event, Hoffman's novel is a spellbinding tale of 4 extraordinarily bold, resourceful, and sensuous women, each of whom has come to Masada by a different path. So it goes on, but I'm going to pause there. Although it does say spellbinding, but although it doesn't necessarily mention mystical, magical elements, I do know that everything that Alice Hoffman writes does have that as just par for the course. Like, in her worlds, these things are just part of life, right? So they rarely get mentioned on the back unless the book is specifically about, say, a witch or something, which a lot of her books are. This is not. This is about 4 quote-unquote normal average women, but there will be elements of otherness, and I am excited about that. I'm excited about the story, the plot line. I'm excited about the 4 women. I'm excited about reading another Alice Hoffman. Next is an author that I know I love. She wrote Dragonwyck. She's an author from the 1950s, 60s, so sometimes her books have some cringy elements in them. I read around them. I just read right around because her storytelling is so rich and interesting. I really, really lose myself in her books, just like I do with Alice Hoffman. And so I knew I needed to get an Anya Seton on this list. I happened to pick quite a long one because this one is about reincarnation and past lives and generational curses. And all of that sounds just really good for an entering fall read. Plus it's coming from an author that I already know I adore. So this is Anya Seton, Green Darkness. It says, Green Darkness is the story of a great love, a love in which mysticism, suspense, and mystery form a web of good and evil forces that stretch from Tudor England to the England of the 20th century. The marriage of the Englishman Richard Marsden and his young American wife Celia slowly turns tragic as Richard withdraws into himself and Celia suffers a debilitating emotional breakdown. A wise mystic realizes that Celia can escape her past only by reliving it. She journeys back 400 years to her former life as the servant girl Celia de Bohun during the reign of Edward VI and to her doomed love affair with the chaplain Stephen Marsden. Although Celia and Stephen can't escape the horrifying consequences of their love, fate and time offer them another chance for redemption. So, again, I just really get lost in Anya Seton's worlds. Dragonwyck is one of my favorite reads of last year, and I'm excited to give Green Darkness a try. Next is another author that I know I love. This author writes horror novels. I've only read one of them, and I know I love this author because this author wrote an ending to a horror novel that I actually loved. So I love reading horror, but I always horror movies, horror novels, horror TV shows, they always disappoint me with the ending. Horror novelists don't know how to end things. They either reveal too much or too little. And this author got it right in the one book I've read by him. And so I am very, very hopeful about Black River Orchard by Chuck Wendig. Chuck Wendig, I am counting on you. This one just sounds so fall-like, autumnal, spooky, and has some like biblical vibes in it with this garden and these apples and kind of like power and sin and things like that. So let's listen to the back of it because it sounds phenomenal. And this is a fairly recent release. It was either released this month or last month. So very excited about this. It's autumn in the town of Harrow, but something besides the season is changing there, because in that town there is an orchard, and in that orchard, 7 most unusual trees, and from those trees grows a new sort of apple, strange, beautiful, with skin so red it's nearly black. Take a bite of one of these apples, and you will desire only to devour another, and another. You will become stronger, more vital, more yourself. You will believe. But then your appetite for the apples and their peculiar gifts will keep growing and become darker. This is what happens when the townsfolk discover the secret of the orchard. Soon it seems that everyone is consumed by an obsession with the magic of apples, and what's the harm? If it is making them all happier, more confident, more powerful, even if something else is buried in the orchard besides the seeds of these extraordinary trees. A bloody history whose roots reach back to the very origins of the town. But now the leaves are falling, the days are growing darker, it's harvest time, and the town will soon reap what it has sown. That sounds so good. It sounds so good. I'm so excited about all of these. I hope I get to read them all. The next one is an author I know I love. It is a YA, and there are some elements on the back of this book that make me a little bit hesitant to predict that I'm going to love this book, but it is the first in a series, and it's an author I love. I read their Binti series of 3 sci-fi novellas about a young African woman whose family traditionally or culture traditionally just stays right where they are, but she decides to go intergalactic to university to develop her gifts, and while going, her spaceship is hijacked by another alien race, and this is completely and utterly transformative for her entire life, her entire mission, her entire being. She's the only one who survives, and it changes her, quite literally, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It changes her. And I love that series so much. It is the series, she is the author, that made me think, oh, sci-fi might be for me. So this is not science fiction, I don't think. It looks to be just fantasy, YA fantasy. It's the first in a trilogy, and I am going to give it a try. I am hopeful because of who this author is and how she has affected me in the past, but the YA element and some of the storyline that goes par for the course with the YA element is making me a little bit apprehensive. So we will see. We will see. I am excited to read it, though. This is AATA Witch by Nnedi Okorafor. And in this one, there is a young woman. She is albino, but she has all the features of a West African. That's what it says on the back. She has all the features of a West African, but she is albino. She was born in, she lives in Nigeria, but she was born in New York. And she has powers. She and 3 other girls at her school have these powers, so they're put together into this group to learn how to develop those powers. And then here's the element that gets me a little bit concerned about whether or not this is going to be a book for me. These 4 girls who are just learning how to step into their power, just learning who they really are required, they're needed to solve a serial killer case with a person who is also gifted with the same gifts as them. I don't like it when stories give young people adult problems that aren't necessarily for them. And that seems to be what the whole premise of this book is about. So I'm a little bit apprehensive, but I trust Nnedi Okorafor, and I'm going in with an open mind, and a little reservation. This is a new to me book. It just released maybe 2 months ago when I got it from Book of the Month, and I haven't gotten around to reading it yet, but I'm very excited because it's set where I live, and I love that. So this is Bear by Julia Phillips, and I assume she's a local author. No, not at all. She lives on the opposite coast from me, and yet she has set this on an island that is very, very close to me and which I have been to. This is Bear, and in this one there is a couple of girls, a pair of sisters. I don't know why that was hard to say. There's a pair of sisters who live and work on this island, and this island is a place where tourists ride the ferry from the mainland out to the island, and the people who live on the island really struggle to make ends meet, but their bread and butter are these tourists. And these two sisters are struggling. One day while driving the ferry or riding the ferry, they see a bear swimming in the channel. This is an unusual occurrence. And it's even more unusual when that bear shows up in their yard. And this book is about the connection between the sisters, the connection between where they think they belong and what they think is available to them, what they think they can rightfully claim in their life, and the power of the bear in some way to open up or shut down their worlds. And I am very curious about this and very interested in reading it. Next is a reread, but it's a series that I want to reread, and it is a YA series, but it's a YA series that got me through the beginning of lockdown, when we went on lockdown. I downloaded all of these from my Libby app from my library, and I have never read physical copies. So I picked up physical copies to revisit this series. I'm very excited about it. These are The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. I've tried to read other things by Maggie Stiefvater, and I have not liked them at all, but I loved this series when I read it, and I want to know if I actually love it or if it just scratched that itch at that time. And I want to reread, and I want to reread the series in physical form this time and take a little bit more time with it. This is about Blue Sargent, and she and her mother are clairvoyant, and they have this curse on them. Blue believes that she will kill, not that she will kill, but that by falling in love with someone, like her true love, will die as a result of being loved by her. And so she kind of goes through life not caring about that because she doesn't think she's ever going to fall in love with anybody anyway. It's not her inclination until she meets one of these Raven Boys. So the boys that attend this particular school are known as the Raven Boys. They have kind of a bad reputation for being maybe like superior, snotty, a little bit uptight, a little bit into themselves. And she meets these 4 guys, and they're going to change her world. She's going to fall in love with one of them, and she's got this curse. There's a lot of fun stuff in here regarding like magic and mysticism and spiritual gifts and tarot readings and all sorts of stuff, ley lines, all sorts of fun stuff. In fact, almost overwhelming amount of fun stuff. Like maybe Maggie could have stepped it back just a little bit, but at the same time, it's a really fast-paced, fun read, and you really become very invested in these characters, very invested, and remember that, one of them is cursed to die because of love, and the other is cursed to lose them, and you really fall in love with all of these characters. So I am excited about this. I plan on reading, there's 4 of them. I plan on reading 1 each month until the end of the year. I'm very excited about that. Next, I'm going to read the next book in a series I just finished this month in August when I'm filming this. I just finished the first in this series, really enjoyed it. Before I had even finished it, I ordered the next 2, so I'm all set to go. I'm going to read 1 this month and 1 next month and finish out this trilogy. And then if I really love it, I might go back and read the other trilogies in this world that I haven't read before. And that is Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare. So I read Chain of Gold, which was the first book in this particular trilogy, her most recent trilogy. I have never read any of the other books in this Shadowhunter series. I didn't know what I was getting into when I went into it, but I loved it. It's like set in the Victorian era, but in England, but it's about like a subset of society. They are demon hunters, they are ghosts, they are demons, they are witches, they are warlocks, they have all sorts of powers. They don't fit in with the what they call mundanes, which would be like the muggles. And it's just their world, but it's their world as lived in this Victorian England. And it's so much fun and so dark and so fast-paced. There's romance, there's politics, there's history, there's family drama, and it is really, really engrossing and engaging. And so I know this is going to be a super quick read. They are long, but they read so fast, and I want to know what happens. The last novel ended on a, not necessarily a cliffhanger, but like at a point where I need to know what's going to happen next. I need to know how something's going to work out, and this whole book is about how that works out. You really get attached to these characters, at least I did, and although it is YA, it does not necessarily read campy. I think YA sometimes reads kind of campy and overly emotional, and that's not part of this, so I am excited about that. This one is a book that was on a previous TBR that I didn't get to. I want to get to it, and it does feel like a autumn read. This is just a little bit magical in that the animals can talk. I don't know if they talk to people or just to each other, but we do get perspectives of animals in this, and they do support our main character of Beatrix Potter. So this is the tale of Hilltop Farm. This is the first in a series. This is the first in a series of cozy. This is the first in a series of cozy. This is the first in a series of cozy mysteries that center around Beatrix Potter, the author, the real-life author, on her farm, solving fictional mysteries with the help of all the little animals that live on her farm. Again, I don't know if those animals can talk to her, but I do think they talk to each other, and I do think that she's only able to solve these mysteries with their help in some way, shape, or form. This just sounds like a lovely, release from reality. It sounds calm and peaceful and twee, and I'm into that. So I am hoping to love that series, and I'm going to give it a try. This one is by an author I have never read. I've not really been interested in most of the premises of the books that this author has put out, but this is their latest. This is a novel love story by Ashley Poston, or Poston. And in this one, you have a woman who is traveling. She's had some hardship. She's traveling toward her book group retreat when suddenly she finds herself in the midst of the fictional town from her favorite romance series. And within this fictional town from her favorite romance series, everybody seems to be stuck, on repeat, because the author, the real-life author of this fictional series, has passed away and has left a book unfinished. The main character in this book wants to finish it, but she's being thwarted in that by the love interest, who is not a character from the books and who doesn't want the main character in this book to finish the tale. Next is an author that has been a little bit hit or miss for me. Next is an author who's been a little bit hit or miss for me. That's Susanna Kersley. So I've read several books by this author, and the one that I love is Belle Weather. I love it so much. I've reread it multiple times over the years, and I know this about Susanna Kersley, that everything she writes somehow plays with time or deals with time. That's a storyline that I really enjoy, or a trope that I really enjoy, both in movies, TV shows, and this. Quantum Leap, the original Quantum Leap, love that TV show so much. About Time, the movie About Time, love that movie so much. And so those kinds of elements, or Sliding Doors, think about that kind of idea. So those kinds of elements are always present in Susanna Kersley's writing. There's always two storylines or more, usually two. One is set in the past and one is set in the present, and those interlope somehow. In Belle Weather, it's really through ghosts, through spiritual encounters. In other books, it's through different things. I don't know what it will be in this. This comes highly recommended by Kate Howe, who has a million videos that you can watch, and they're really wonderful, but she hasn't been posting for a few months. She said she was going to take a step back, and I don't know how long that will be, maybe forever, I don't know, but if you want to go and watch her videos, she offers a lot of great suggestions for books that she refers to as life softening. So these are books that don't add to your stress level, and I appreciate that sometimes. So this comes highly recommended by her. And so I decided to go ahead and pick it up. I know deep in my heart, deep in my reader's heart, I know that Susanna Kersley has another book somewhere out there that I'm going to love as much as I love Belle Weather. I know she does. She has it in her. The other books I've read by her, I have not enjoyed. They have either bored me or felt unrealistic, which is a weird thing to say about time books, but they haven't felt plausible, even within the rules of the world that she's created, or they've been boring. Like, I've felt bored in them. I am hoping that that is not the case with this. This is The Winter Sea. It takes place, the past part takes place in a time and a place that I'm super interested in. We are going to be going into that British Civil War again, and that is one of my favorite times. This one is actually about, or it includes, part of the storyline is about King James almost making it back into Scotland. So thinking about my absolute passion for Macbeth. And Macbeth does not take place during this time period, but it is written and received by the court and performed during this time period in relation to King James. Like, it is a play about criticizing and uplifting King James. I am very passionate about all of that, love all of that, love that time period, love the Civil War, like learning about the Civil War, and all of those connectors, all of those little things say to me that perhaps this is going to be the one that I really, really get into. In this one, that's the past time period element, but there is the present time period element where you have an author, which is also something I love, where you have an author who is writing a fictional account of a family member. So she has a family member that was present during this past period. And as she's writing this book, she starts to realize that she knows things that she maybe shouldn't know. She starts to realize that maybe she is channeling, traveling, embodying, I don't know, we'll find out, this person from her past and telling the story as it actually happened. And so time gets a little bit weird, because is she who she is, or is she this other person, or is this other person coming to her? I don't know, but I'm willing to read the book to find out. The next book is one that I have read the beginning of multiple times and have never continued reading, and I really want to. I don't know why I don't continue. I think I get a little creeped out. Yes, this is a book that has the power to creep me out. Even thinking about the back of the book creeps me out. But it is a story that calls to me, and I really want to finish it. It is quite short. And this is The Silent Companions by Laura Purcell. This is the story of a woman in England? Sussex, I think. Did I see the word Sussex, or did I just make that up? Wow, I totally just made up the word Sussex. It's referred to as Victorian Gothic. So let's just say it's in England. My mind just totally superimposed the word Sussex on the back of this book, and it's not there. So your eyes can play tricks on you. So this is about a woman in Victorian England, I believe. who has just lost her husband. Yeah, newly widowed Elsie. She's just lost her husband. She's pregnant, and she's heading to his estate to live out her pregnancy and have this child. And when she gets there, things are weird. And one of the weird things is that in her rooms, there is a locked door that when you unlock it and open it, there's nothing inside but a little cove that holds a wooden doll that looks exactly like her. And on the back of the book, it says, she doesn't think much about this. Who wouldn't think much about that? But she doesn't think much about this until she starts to realize that the eyes of the doll follow her all around the room. Everybody's afraid of this doll. So it says with her new almost said students. Are these all Freudian slips? I don't know. It says her new students. Oh my word. Let's try that again. Her new servants are resentful and the local villagers actively hostile. Elsie has only her husband's awkward cousin for company, or so she thinks. Inside her new home lies a locked door that bears a locked door. I'm having struggles here. There's a locked door, beyond which is a painted wooden figure, a silent companion that bears a striking resemblance to Elsie. The residents of the bridge are terrified of the figure, but Elsie tries to shrug it off as a simple superstition until she notices the figure's eyes following her. It creeps me out in such a good way. So I am looking forward to reading this. If you're new here, you may not realize that this year I've been trying to read a classic every month. And when I hit the Iliad, I fell off of that goal because I could not make myself get through the Iliad. I've tried to read the Iliad so many times. I've read the Odyssey. I've tried to read the Iliad so many times, and I don't want to. I don't want to. Stop trying to make me. I lost it because I knew that the next book was the Odyssey. I had to read the Iliad. I couldn't read the Iliad. I couldn't make myself read or listen to the Iliad. And so I stopped. I'm going to get back on that. I am allowing myself to put the Iliad and the Odyssey on my shelf and never read it if I don't want to. And so I went and I was like, which of these classics that I've set aside to read this year do I actually want to pick up and read right now? What's going to get me back into this? Because I loved Marjorie, what's her face? I can't remember her last name, but I loved the Book of Marjorie, whatever her last name is. I loved the Letters of Abelard and Heloise. I loved the Epic of Gilgamesh. I just loved them so much. And now I am at this like resistant phase because I tried to read the Iliad and I hated it. I hated it so much. And then I felt like a failure because I stopped doing it. And I haven't done one in months. And now I'm behind in my goal. So I was like, look at all the ones that you have set aside here. What's the one that's calling to you? So I'm going to get back on this horse with the Lays of Marie de France. And these are short lyrical stories about courtly life. And they are from the 12th century, written by a woman. And they, I think, are like fable-esque. I don't think that they're maybe true to life, but maybe they are. I don't know. And I am really feeling this. I'm currently reading, like right now in real life, I'm currently reading the new Lev Grossman, which I can't quite remember the name of. Sword is in the title. And it is his take on the Arthurian legends. And I'm loving it so much. So you'll see in a second that I'm also going to read another Arthur book. I'm really like feeling like, oh, I may be entering a phase where I want to read a lot about King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table and Guinevere and Lancelot and all that fun stuff. Well, this is about that kind of courtly romance, that kind of courtly love. It says Marie de France, late 12th century, is the earliest known French woman poet, and her lays, or stories in verse based on Breton tales of chivalry and romance, are among the finest of the genre. Recounting the trials and tribulations of lovers, the lays inhabit a powerfully realized world where very real human protagonists act out their lives against fairy tale elements of magical beings, potions, and beasts. Throughout, Marie de France takes a subtle and complex view of courtly love, whether telling the story of the knight who betrays his fairy mistress, or describing the noble woman who embroiders her sad tale on a shroud for a nightingale killed by her jealous and suspicious husband. Oh, I am excited about these, and I am going to get back on my goal of reading a classic every month. As I sneak peeked you, I want to read The Crystal Cave by Mary Stuart. This has been on a previous TBR. I love Mary Stuart. Oh, I love Mary Stuart. In fact, there are 2 Mary Stuarts on my September hopeful list because, again, she is one of those authors. She wrote from the 60s, maybe 50s, all the way into the 90s or 2000s, and everything I have picked up by her has been an absolute win, except for one book. The one with the tree and the title about the smoker, the liars, the people who manipulate a situation for personal gain. I didn't like that one, but the ivy tree. But the others I absolutely love. In fact, 2 of her books that I read last year ended up on my favorites of the year list. So I know that I love Mary Stuart's writing. I've read maybe 6 books by her at this point, and let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've read 6 books by her at this point, and only one of them has been a dud. That's really good odds that I'm going to love this. And this is the first in a series that she wrote about Arthurian legend. The first one is about Merlin and how he becomes Merlin, who he was as a child, and all of his training and all of that stuff, and how he is there for the crowning of Uther Pendragon, who is King Arthur's son. No, it's King Arthur's father. And so this is the beginning of these legends. And so I am looking forward to this one. I know that it's going to be writing that is very, like I've said about other books in this stack, immersive, escapist, really rich storytelling. And I'm just going to be totally pulled into this. I know it for a fact. Even the book I didn't like by her, I was totally pulled into. I have a fun one by an author that I really enjoy. This is another one that came out a couple of months ago that I picked up from Book of the Month that I haven't gotten to yet. And this is India Holton's The Ornithologist's Field Guide to Love. I have already read the first chapter of this. I know I'm going to absolutely love this. It's laugh out loud funny to me. I know that India Holton she's got like a love-hate relationship with the entire reading community. People either absolutely love her or they don't get her. Her humor is very weird. Her stories are very odd, and I really, really get on with them. So I'm excited to read this one. It's giving me Emily Wilde vibes. So there's this woman, and she's like the best in her field for bird hunting, ornithology, bird watching. And but there are like mythical birds in this England, in this world. She is tasked with trying to spot this very elusive bird. And she has to pair up or team up with her academic rival, sounding very much like Emily Wilde. She has to team up with her academic rival, and they are attracted to each other, but they cannot be attracted to each other because they are academic rivals. But they have to work together to spot this bird, and of course they are going to fall in love, and it is going to be delightful. It is going to be absolutely laugh out loud funny, weird, and ridiculous, and I'm there for all of it. All of it. The biggest Stephen King on the planet. No, it is probably longer, but this is quite long. This is not a horror novel by Stephen King. This is a time warp or time travel novel, and I am excited about that element. I don't read a lot of Stephen King's not horror. So Revival is one that I've read that's not quite a horror novel by him. It's more of a, like straight up social commentary. This is a fantasy novel by him that is dealing with time travel, And there will be dark elements, but it is not a horror. And I am reading it because my sister recommended it. And also because everybody who's ever read it has said that it's amazing. So the JFK Time is not something that really interests me all that much, which is probably why I've never picked this book up. But I'm going to read the back to you because I think the back does a really great job of making it sound enticing. So it says, life can turn on a dime or stumble into the extraordinary as it does for Jake Epping, a divorced high school English teacher in small town Maine. While grading essays by his GED students, Jake reads about such a destined moment through a gruesome, enthralling piece pinned by janitor Harry Dunning. 50 years earlier, Harry somehow survived his father's slaughter of the entire family. Jake is blown away, even as a more bizarre, life-altering secret comes to light when his friend Al, owner of the local diner, enlists Jake to take over the mission that has become his obsession, to prevent the Kennedy assassination. How? By stepping through a mysterious portal in the diner's storeroom and into the era of Ike and Elvis, of big American cars, sock hops, and cigarette smoke. Finding himself in warm-hearted Jody, Texas, Jake begins a new life. Yet all turns on this treacherous road lead straight to a troubled loner named Lee Harvey Oswald. The course of history is about to be rewritten. So, again, super long, super long. Kind of small font, so definitely super long. But this is the book that my sister recommended that I read for my 12 in 12 challenge. Many of the books that I was recommended for the 12 in 12 challenge, I have DNF'd this year. Some of them I want to revisit later. They just haven't fallen at a good place for me. Again, I'm reading a lot less than I have in the past, and they don't feel like what I want to read a lot of the time, but I definitely want to prioritize this. This is something that I have thought of reading in the past. This is something that I think will be good, really good to like sink down into and get lost in. Stephen King, although he always disappoints me with his endings, I just know that going in, but Stephen King does create worlds and characters which I get lost in. And so I am excited about the time travel aspect of this, that I'm reading this and my sister recommended it, that I'm doing another 12 in 12 challenge book and determined to finish it. And that I think this is going to be really engrossing. I don't know if I'll finish it this month, but I'm going to start it this month for sure. This is one that was on my July TBR that I did not get to, but I'm really enthralled by and really want to read. This is one that was recommended in the spring recommendations video by Desi at Darling Desi. If you don't watch her videos, she doesn't put them out very often, but when she does, they're very high quality, very whimsical, magical, romanticizing life and reading. They're nice escapist videos, and she often has really wonderful and interesting and unique book recommendations, and this is one of them. So this is Spark of the Everflame, The Kindred's Cursed Saga, Book 1 by Penn Cole. There are 3 books in the series, I believe. This is a fantasy series. It says that in a mortal world colonized by the gods and ruled over by the descended, the cruel magic wielding offspring. That sentence always gets me. Let me try that again. It says, in a mortal world colonized by the gods and ruled over by the descended, the cruel magic wielding offspring, Diem Bellator, I hate that name, Diem Bellator yearns to escape the insular life of her poor village. Her mother's sudden disappearance and the discovery of a dangerous secret about her past offer Diem an unexpected opportunity to enter the dark world of descended royalty and unlock the web of mysteries her mother left behind. With the dying king's handsome, mysterious heir watching her every move and a ruthless rebel alliance recruiting her to join the growing civil war, Diem will have to navigate the unwritten rules of love, power, and politics in order to save her family and all of mortal kind. No pressure, just all of mortal kind on the shoulders of one young girl in this fictional kingdom. Sounds fun. It truly does sound fun. I think that I'm going to love this series, and it's independently published, so you can read it on your Kindle for free, I believe, but I wanted the physical copy. I am going to go into this series. So Sid at Bookworm, I think her channel is called. She does great TBRs, really, really fun. I love watching her vlogs and her TBRs, so if you haven't watched her, you really should give her a chance. But she is going to go into this series starting rereading it over again from the beginning because she loves it so much, and the new book and the final book in the series has just been released or is about to be released. And so she put this on my radar. This is a book that I remember seeing in middle school library a few, like maybe 6 years ago, and thinking, oh, I should read that. And then I promptly forgot about it until Sid started talking about it, and I went, ooh, I should read that. This is The Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. And I know nothing about this except that I love this cover and that people love this series and that I have been drawn to this series in the past and am now picking it up. So it says, and I'm going to get all of these names wrong, it says that Zélie Adebola remembers when the soil of Orisha hummed with magic. Burners ignited flames, tiders beckoned waves, and Zélie's Reaper mother summoned forth souls. But everything changed once magic disappeared. Under the orders of a ruthless king, the Magi were targeted and killed, leaving Zélie without a mother and her people without hope. Now Zélie has one chance to bring back magic and strike against the monarchy. With the help of a rogue princess, Zélie must outwit and outrun the crown prince, who is hell-bent on eradicating magic for good. Danger lurks in Orisha, where snow leopards prowl and vengeful spirits wait in the waters. Yet the greatest threat may be Zélie herself, as she struggles to control her powers and her growing feelings for an enemy. Note to self: do not film TBR videos while crews are trying to paint the outside of your apartment complex. Your dog will bark. I have just 2 more to talk about, and both of them are only available to me in these old editions. One several years older than I am, and one from my youth era. This book feels so much like the books I grew up reading. It's like coming home into my hands. This is Mary Stewart's A Walk in Wolf Wood. This is a kind of YA middle grade sort of a read. It is a mystery fantasy thriller for middle grade. It says that behind John and Margaret lay the paved road, the car, and their sleeping parents. Ahead of them lay Wolf Wood and a fantastic adventure of medieval magic. There, within the enchanted forest where the romantic long ago and the present overlap, they meet the noble lord Mardian. Once the Duke's favorite, he was cursed by an evil sorcerer to roam the woods at night as a werewolf. Only these children from the future and the power of his magic amulet can release him from the spell, but once the spell is broken, they find themselves caught in a 14th century world of betrayal and danger. So, again, I will read anything that Mary Stewart puts out. This sounds like the perfect autumnal read. I am very excited to give it a try. And it's going to be very escapist. It's going to be a very quick read, and I'm going to love every single second of it. And then finally, I have this book that I picked up and included in my birthday book haul. I picked it up from a little free library. It is, as I said, several years older than me, this book, and the story in it sounds so good to a Jenna. This is like the kind of storyline that I love in old, creepy, like, B movies, like B horror movies. So this is An Afternoon Walk. And in this book, you have a woman who's taking an afternoon walk with her daughter when she sees a house. I don't know if she enters the house, but she sees this house and it has some kind of a major weird effect on her. I don't know if it calls to her or if she suddenly remembers things or what, but there's some kind of spiritual connection to this house. Except that when she goes walking again, she cannot find the house. But ever since she saw the house, she's been getting disturbing phone calls that are like threats, like, where's your daughter? Better watch your breaks. Things like that. She thinks that it all has to do with the house. She's afraid to tell anybody about this situation. She doesn't think that anybody will believe her, especially, unfortunately, her husband. I'm really excited about reading this. I've never read anything by Dorothy Eden. I've never heard of this book, but as soon as I read the back, I just knew I need to read that book. So there you have it. all of the things that I plan on trying to get through in the month of September. Will I get through all of them? Will I get through any of them? Only time will tell, but I am hopeful. I'm really, really hopeful that the month of September is going to be great, with the start of this brand new school year, the ending of the summer, the moving into a new season. I'm really looking forward to the future right now, and I hope you are too. Find those playful moments again. Find what brings you joy. That's why all these books have magic in them, but mostly all these books have magic in them. I like that. I love to read about that. Just find the little things that bring you joy. Put a little whipped cream in your coffee in the morning. Take the path that walks through all the flowers. Like, do the little things that make you super happy. Your life will be better for it. Your life will be better. Included in that is reading, so let's go read.